Today I'm sharing a compilation of all the habits and routines we have adopted for an enjoyable yet simple life at home, including how we stay clutter-free and organized as a family of 5. Do you ever find yourself scrolling through perfectly curated home organization photos only to feel overwhelmed? Well, you're not alone. After decluttering our home and trying to live in a more minimal way, I realized we don't have to copy what we see on the internet. Here are 10 ways we maintain order without spending too much time or money. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel to join our community. Let's start in the kitchen. This spot was initially intended for our refrigerator. We decided that we would rather have the space for making food, and we added a counter. We also added this shelf up here and took the doors off the top to put in some bins. Then we took out a broken dishwasher and decided to make a cupboard instead. All of that to say, what you see online is not always reality. So here we have my organized pantry. I do use a few bins to keep things separated, and I do decant things that I buy in bulk, like the oatmeal, but overall, we keep things in the packages they come in, because why waste money and time by decanting every single little thing just to make it look a certain way when it's just as organized with the way I have it here. I put things that are similar together, and we know where everything is. We also added these open shelves, which are a decorative plus also great way to organize things. This kitchen was built in the 1950s, and this area at the end was intended to be a dine-in area. I did not want to have that set up for us, so I decided to get these inexpensive cabinets from IKEA. They were easy to make, and it was a great way to add some extra storage. We now store some of our pantry items down there, our bulk backup items, and some cooking things for when we want to cook something or prepare something. We have the extra counter space as well. We do make all of our meals here at home. We rarely go out to eat. So this was such a wonderful addition to our kitchen and very affordable. We are planning to completely redo this kitchen eventually, but for now we've made it as cute as possible and as organized and functional as possible too. I've found that thinking outside the box and trying to come up with custom solutions is the best way to keep our family organized in our home so far. Let's talk about closets. So again, living in a vintage 1950s home, we have very basic small closets, which is fine by me, but I do have to get creative when it comes to organizing because my husband and I do share this closet. I love these organizational shoe holders from IKEA. I've had these for probably 10 years now or maybe longer. They're just a great way to keep my shoes separated, and I don't have that many pairs of shoes, so it's really easy to keep these organized. Other than that, I just hang all my clothes to one side. My husband has the other side. And then moving into my office closet, we did decide to add some shelves going down the whole entire side because I have a lot of things like cameras, cords, and typical office supplies as well. I found this closet would be great with shelves rather than having a bar to hang things on. We do have a future plan to completely redo this closet, keeping the shelves we've already added, but adding more shelves and completely customizing it for this space. When it came to my office, I knew I needed a way to organize all of my notes. So instead of using little scraps of paper like I used to, I went to using bound notebooks, and I found this little container where I could stand all of my notebooks so I could find them at a moment's notice and also tidy up at the end of the day and put them away so I wasn't looking at a huge mess spread all over my desk, and that's really helped to keep me motivated in here. We have 2 closets in our narrow hall, and I decided to put all of the similar items together. So I have all the blankets and tablecloths and curtains, things that we don't use as much at the top. And then at the bottom, I have all the blankets that we use all the time. And then in the other tiny closet, I decided to make that a towel closet since our bathrooms are quite small. It was better to keep the towels out in this closet. And I went to a system of rolling these beach towels because my kids are on a swim team, and that's the easiest way for them to pull them out without all of the towels flying out of the cupboard. When it comes to my cleaning towels, I just throw them all into a bin in here. I don't see the point in wasting time folding these towels when I can just throw them all in that bin and know that that's where I go to find them to start cleaning. I actually love organizing with bins, especially when it comes to my boys' room with their clothes and their toys and almost anything really. I don't want to fill the room with bins that aren't necessary, but the great thing about a bin is it does limit how much we have of a certain item. So we have bins for Duplo, we have bins for little Lego, we have a bin that their shoes go in, and I have 2 bins for their off-season clothing that I keep up on a high shelf in their room. I also have a few trays in their desk, and that way they can organize their things as they see needed and put their items where they want them to go. But this really helps us to know where items go. It helps them to put things away, and once in a while, I do have to come in here to reorganize things, but most of the time they know what goes in what area and what bin, and it really helps them to do things on their own. I recently purchased this hanging laundry basket, which has been great. This helps keep us organized because my boys know that all the laundry goes in here. We don't have to worry about where we're going to store a laundry basket. This is up on the wall, out of the way. And the great thing is I don't have toys and crayons accidentally falling in here, or at least it's very rare now, and I don't have to worry about that going through the washing machine and the dryer. Recently, I have fallen in love with hooks. I think everyone tends to focus on bins when it comes to organizing, but to me, hooks are a real lifesaver when you're trying to organize things that might be damp. So we have added some hooks right outside our kitchen door here, which is something I haven't really seen. And this works great for us because we live in a pretty dry, warm climate most of the time. And we have wet towels from drying dishes and drying mats that get damp. So this is the perfect place to hang those items when they're sopping wet and I am not ready to do a load of laundry yet. And I put them out here, they dry, and sometimes we can even reuse them again once they're dry. But we put these hooks, these are from IKEA, and I just think they work great. Also, when my boys get home from swimming, we now have a place to put the swim towels to dry, and it's just a really great way to organize things. Of course, visually it can look a little cluttered, but to me, I'd rather have backpacks up off the floor than be tripping over them every time I try to walk in the door. Let's talk about custom storage. I think it's a great idea to add custom storage whenever possible. If you own a home, you could do some kind of renovations, but if not, you could always add a shelf. When we first moved in here, this did not exist. We had a strange closet on the other side of this wall, and when we did away with that, we were able to transform that into a media wall with storage, and we were able to make this side linen closet in the hall. So it was a win-win situation. We also added some custom storage under here, which is where my husband has decided to store some of his guitar stuff. Most recently, Grant added this little spice rack, which has kept the spices way more organized than before. So again, custom storage for the win. When we first moved into our previous home, we brought all our things in, stuck them in cupboards without a lot of thought, and they stayed there for a really long time until I came across decluttering and minimalism. And that's when I started going through everything and decluttering all the stuff we no longer needed, which led me to realize that when it comes to keeping a home organized, we can analyze and move things around our home even after they've been put into a spot originally. So what I'm trying to say is that analyzing and reorganizing can go a long way to make our homes function better. And I think a lot of the time we move in somewhere, throw things into a cupboard, and then we never move them ever again. And I've learned that moving things around and finding the optimal place for things really helps us to stay organized. Trays and dividers are a great way for me to keep my drawers organized. I like to use them in my kitchen and in my office. I don't feel as though I need them in every single drawer unless we have a lot of little objects. So for instance, I don't have them in that pullout. I do have one bin here for all the lids. I personally like to set it up this way instead of putting the lids on the containers. I just think that's one extra step I don't want to deal with. You don't have to spend a lot on bins. I found this little basket that I think is really cute at the thrift store, which is where I keep all of my youngest son's items. I do keep this out on a shelf. I like the fact that I can organize some items and still have them look visually appealing. I think there is a fine line between being organized and over-organizing and falling into the trap of buying too many items and actually wasting time and money. Here I'm sharing 15 of my favorite habits for a very simplified home. These are things that I've changed in our home and in our lives to make everything function and work a lot better for us as a family. I find whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed out, I think to myself, what can I simplify or take off of my list of things to do to make life easier? Resetting the kitchen is one of the habits that I adopted when I started to simplify our home and our lives. What this means for me is cleaning up the dishes after we're done eating and putting them away. I also try to clean the dishes as I'm making food. So when I have something cooking, I will be cleaning something else that I might have just used and put that away if I'm not going to be using it again. So just kind of working in the kitchen, keeping it tidy as I'm in there doing things. That way it's not a huge job to do at the end of the day. Nothing is worse than coming into the kitchen at the end of the day and having a huge pile of dishes to deal with right before I'm ready to go to bed. So I try super hard to stay on top of cleaning the kitchen, tidying the kitchen throughout my day and after every single meal. So that way I'm not completely overwhelmed at the end of the day having to deal with that big mess. Another good reason to keep this room clean in our home is this is the first room you see when you walk into our home. So it looks great when I walk into a nice clean room rather than a big messy one. The next habit on my list is to keep up with the laundry. And I've done a lot of different laundry systems throughout the years. I used to do a full laundry day where I would save up all the laundry and just have one full day of doing laundry. That worked for a while, but now there's 5 of us living here, and I find it easier to do a load a day or a load every other day. One of the biggest changes I made was to try to do a load completely. So washing the laundry, then drying it, and then folding it and putting it away. It feels good to complete something. So nothing is worse, in my opinion, than when I say, hey, I'm gonna fold that stuff later, and I just keep it in the basket and it's sitting there for too long. It's getting wrinkled. In a really bad day, sometimes my husband will think it's dirty and put the dirty clothes on top of the clean clothes. So it just adds to a lot of confusion. So that is one of the things that I've done to simplify, is to just finish a load to the end when it's put away and it's completely done. That way I don't have to wonder, is this clean? Is this dirty? Where is this laundry coming from? And it just simplifies everything when I come back to the basket. Another habit that I have started very recently with my 2 young sons, one is 7, one is 10, is we are all sharing the chores now. I feel they are at an age where they can help around the house. It's not just cleaning up their own stuff, which they've done forever, but now they can help do other things. So each of them have different chores that they help with that are age appropriate, and that has simplified my life and taken some things off of my list of things to do. They love to help. You can see Levi here, he's trying to help as well, but they enjoy helping, and it's just part of all of us living here together. We can all chip in. I've had comments in the past where people say that they don't see anybody helping, but my family does help, and that is a huge way to simplify your home, is get everybody in on the chores. And that's something that we are doing in our family. My husband helps put the dishes away and dry them while I am washing them, and it just makes the chores go by so much faster when everyone is lending a helping hand, and it makes it fun for everyone to work together. Well, as fun as it can be. Another way I have simplified our home is by not shopping as often as I used to, because when I would go shopping, I would bring things into our home, which would mean I would have to find places to store those things and take care of those things. And that just adds more stress to my life and makes it more overwhelming. And I have found, even though I may not be the most minimal person, I have found that being more minimal has actually alleviated a lot of the stress in my life and simplified our home in a lot of ways, because we just have less stuff to deal with. So I shop less often, and I find this to be a really good way to simplify everything. The next habit on my list is to clear the counters and to clear every flat surface in our home. So that would be the kitchen counters, the dining room table, really any surface where we would set things and leave them to be dealt with later. I try to keep them clear and put the things where they actually belong, rather than just quickly set them down to be dealt with later. So this helps in our kitchen, because when we want to jump in and make a meal, we're ready. The counter's clear and ready. And also it helps when I go shopping. I have a place to put the new food that I'm going to unload. And in the rest of our house, it eliminates the visual clutter that happens when you see a whole bunch of stuff out of place. Next on my list is to declutter often. I have found a way to declutter throughout my day as I go. So if I'm changing decor around, I will question if I still want to keep certain things. When I'm going through my clothes, I will get rid of anything that I didn't wear from the season before. So I just work decluttering into my everyday routine and life, and it's a habit now that I keep on top of. And this is the best way to keep your home simplified. Just don't have the things that you really don't use or need in your home. This leads into my next topic, which is don't keep things that are no longer relevant, or maybe you're keeping them just in case. This is a great way to simplify, get rid of all those clothing items that no longer fit, or maybe are no longer your style, or kids' toys that are broken or they have grown out of, or things that you know you will never wear that you keep pushing to the back of the closet. I have been there, and I've found by getting rid of those things, it really simplifies my home. I also get rid of books as soon as I'm done reading them. I don't see any reason to keep them on a shelf, taking up space and collecting dust. Scheduling grocery shopping has really helped to simplify everything. I make a list and I go shopping once per week. This saves time, money, and energy, because I'm only doing this one time rather than several times per week. I am more organized, and it helps us to go through all the food that we buy and not have a lot of wasted food and money. Before I go grocery shopping, I make sure I clean the refrigerator, look through it, take out all the old funky stuff that we no longer need, things that have expired, or things that we need to use up. And I organize the fridge and make sure that it's all set up in a way that is ready for the new food to come in. That way, when I arrive with the bags, I'm ready to put everything straight into the refrigerator. A place for everything and everything in its place was a saying that I would hear my parents tell me all the time as a child. And now that I'm an adult, I completely understand this saying, and it makes a lot of sense. What this means for us is every single item in our house has its own home. We've designated a place for everything, and this helps us in a lot of ways. So when we're ready to put something away, we know exactly where it's meant to go, and that helps us simplify for when we're trying to find that item, because we know exactly where to go to look for the item. So we're not wasting a whole bunch of time searching through drawers and cupboards looking for the thing that we need. And that simplifies everything for my kids when they need to help clean up. They know where their toys go, they know where the clothes go. And this also helps us to stay more minimal, because if I'm out shopping and looking at something that I think I might want to buy, I will definitely stop and think about where I would put that item in my home. And that has stopped me so many times from purchasing something on a whim, where I might have just grabbed it, brought it home, and then thought, where is this going to go? Especially when it comes to home decor, I always wonder, where will this thing go in our home, and how will it look? How will it function? So finding a place for everything will definitely be a great habit to simplify your home if you're looking to simplify things. Get rid of the junk drawer by organizing it. So we have a drawer in our house that's full of all kinds of random things, but I do not call it a junk drawer because I have organized it, and all of those random things now have a place within this drawer, and I use dividers to keep it all where it should be, and therefore we no longer need to call it a junk drawer. When it comes to towels, I'm doing something a little different than I think most people do. Maybe other people do this, but I've assigned each person their own towels. My husband has his own towels. They look a certain way. My kids each have their own colored towels, and then I have my own towels. So we all know whose towels are whose, and it makes it very easy for us to grab the right towel, and that way we know if we're going to reuse it, we're not accidentally using someone else's towel. We also can keep track of when we need to wash the towel, and it just has simplified everything when it comes to towels. I also keep about 2 towels per person, and then we have some beach towels. So this has simplified everything for us. I know I talked about keeping the counters clear and flat surfaces cleared off, but I keep our bathroom counters clear all the time. We do not store anything besides the pump soap for cleaning hands on our countertops. And there's a really good reason for this, because it helps to keep everything clean and tidy. If we had stuff out on the counters, I would have to be wiping those things off, dusting them. So I just keep everything in the drawers where they belong, organized and put away. And that way, when I need to clean the bathroom, it is super easy to walk in there, spray down the counter, wipe it down without having to move a whole bunch of stuff and have to clean a whole bunch of knickknacks and bottles and things like that. So if you're looking to simplify your bathroom, I would say try to put everything away and keep the counter clear. This has helped me so much to keep our bathroom cleaner and tidy and nice and neat really easily. Every night before we go to bed, I like to go through our home and reset the main living areas. So this could be as simple as picking up some random shoes that are left out, or toys, or as you see, I'm picking up a blanket here, putting the pillows back on the couch, whatever is out of place. I will just run through and pick those items up. My family will usually help me with this, and we'll get it done as quickly as possible. And it's just a quick little reset so we're ready to start the day in the morning. Sticking to daily habits and routines is the best way to simplify everything. I make my bed every day right after I wake up in the morning. I clean up after every meal, as I mentioned before. I try to put things away as soon as I'm done using them and I don't have to come back to it later. I try to switch the laundry around in between other things that I'm doing throughout my day. So I'm not stopping to just do laundry all day. I'm cleaning as I go through my day. If I see a mess, I pick it up or I wipe something off. I am having general meal times. So we usually eat around the same time every single day. I have certain times when I go for a walk, like when I take the kids to school. And if I feel like I want to exercise more, that is when I would spend a little bit extra time walking because I'm already out. I already have my shoes on and I'm ready to go. So I can just add that to something I'm already doing. I eat the same thing for breakfast every day. I have oatmeal every single day for years. I start working on my computer work at the same time, usually every day after breakfast for at least a few hours just to get things going, depending on what I'm doing that day. But I do usually start it at the same time every single day. I turn on the low lighting in our house around the same time every single night because that kind of signals to everyone that we are winding down. You could see in that clip that it was around Halloween time, but we have the same daily routines and habits that we do every single day. So we're not waking up wondering, hey, what is today going to be? This just helps simplify everything on a daily basis and helps our home to function really well. I also like to read before bed each night, and that helps me wind down. And it's something that I really look forward to. Now I want to share all of my top tips for staying clutter-free because it's one thing to declutter all the things that you no longer need, but it is hard to stay that way and keep your home clutter-free, and this is what has really worked for us. If you're new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button to join my channel, and let's jump right into these tips. Adding decluttering as a regular habit into my everyday life has really transformed our home. Gone are the days where I sit down and declutter for hours on end or spend full days going through buckets of toys. Once in a blue moon, we will have a day where we do a deeper declutter. It takes a little bit longer, but in general, I like to have the habit of decluttering all the time. So when I head into my bedroom and I'm picking out my clothes, I see something that I haven't worn in a really long time, I'll pull it out, have a look at it, think about why I haven't worn it, and 9 times out of 10, I will add that to the box that I'm going to declutter at the end of the month. So usually I do this throughout my day as I am doing my regular chores and living my normal life. If I'm going to be putting away my son's clothes, a lot of the time I'll open the drawer and I'll just look through, find the things that I can see he's no longer wearing or maybe doesn't fit anymore, and I'll pull those out and declutter them. So I've made this a habit that I've integrated into my everyday life, which has helped so much to keep us clutter-free. I've also gone to not keeping just in case items any longer. And when it comes to my kids, I am no longer holding on to clothes that need to be handed down. So I have 3 boys, and yes, I could easily hold the clothes and pass them down to the next kid. But in all honesty, because we've adopted a capsule wardrobe, I've found that by the time my son is through wearing his clothes, they are completely worn out and there's no need to hold on to them to pass them down any further. As I talk through these tips, I'm just going to be sharing on the screen some decluttering inspiration and motivation, and I hope it can inspire you to do some decluttering while watching this video. But also, I want to mention that it's very important to stop the clutter from coming into our home in the first place. So what I have started doing, and I've been doing this for probably 2 or 3 years now, which is whenever I see something I might want to buy, it pops in my head. I might be on YouTube, I might be in a store. I will jot that down, usually in my notes app on my phone because I'm usually on the go, and I will just write down what I thought I might want to buy in that moment, and I won't buy it. I will then wait, and if I find myself thinking, hey, what was it that I wrote down, on my notes, and I want to look and see what that was, 9 times out of 10, when I come across that list and I'm going to add something new to the list, I see what I've already put on there. I never feel as if I want to still buy that item. It's the weirdest thing, but I would really like you to try it if you're finding it hard to avoid impulse buys, is just jot down what you're thinking of buying, wait a little while, and usually I realize that I don't actually need that item anymore. Sometimes I have found something else I can use instead, or just that fleeting moment of feeling like I wanted to buy something, an impulse buy, I completely avoid by writing it down. Of course, there will be times when I do need to go shopping and buy something. We added a 5th family member to our home and lives not too long ago. He's now 2 years old as I record this, but we do have things changing and kids growing, and we're always going through different seasons in our lives. So what I have gone to doing is following the 1 in, 1 out rule. I don't always switch something out exactly for that item. So let's just say I have a sweater I don't want to wear anymore, I don't like, maybe it doesn't fit. I will declutter that item. And that doesn't mean I go out and purchase an exact replica of that sweater, although sometimes I do replace things. But I find maybe that went, but I ended up buying some shorts for the current season I'm in. However it works out, I do find that just keeping with that 1 in, 1 out policy really helps us to stay at the level of things that we have in our house, and it keeps us at that exact level. Of course, if you're wanting to declutter more, then of course, I've heard people recommend the 1 in, maybe 2 or 3 items out, and then that will help you to keep your home on the decreasing of the clutter. But that is only, I think, when you're actually trying to actively have less in your home. And I think we go through stages where we have a little bit more, we go through stages where we have a little bit less. I always try to keep us more on the minimal side because that is what makes me happy, and it helps to reduce my anxiety. It also makes it a lot easier for me to clean up our house, put things away, and stay organized. The other rule I really like to follow is just the replacement rule, which is something I sort of talked about, but it's when something breaks, I'm just replacing that exact item. So it is literally the 1 in, 1 out of the exact same item. And that's only if the thing that broke or needs to be replaced is something that I really value and think adds a lot to our lives, and we need to bring a new one in to replace it. If you are currently decluttering your home, I do have an ebook about how we decluttered our home, all the tips and tricks I used to go from cluttered and overwhelmed to completely decluttered and more minimal. So I will leave the link with more information down below in the description box. I am a very creative person. I have an art degree. I love interior design. And I felt when we first started decluttering and becoming more minimal that I would have to stop watching and looking at everything that made me possibly want to have something new in my home. So I thought I would need to stop watching everything on Instagram, stop going to stores, stop looking at creative things that people are doing in their home. And this is something I don't hear a lot of people mention, but I want to share it because I think it could possibly help you if you're struggling with this as well, which is that we can appreciate what other people are doing in their homes, the beautiful decor that they decide they want to have in their home, even if it might be a little bit too much for us in our homes. We can also appreciate all the beautiful Christmas decorations or maybe Easter decorations or whatever the person is decorating for. We can still like to look at that, get inspiration from it, feel inspired, but I don't need to feel as if I need those things in my home. So I follow quite a few home decor channels, and I love watching things about people decorating their homes, but I've found that I can just tell myself, just because I love looking at this, it does not mean that I need to rush out and go buy it and add it to my home. I can now appreciate what other people are doing, get inspiration, and not feel as if I need to spend the money on that I need to have it in my home. Because I know if I did put it in my home, I would now have anxiety. I would feel like I need to be taking care of all these items. And then what if now they're not cool anymore? They're not the trend anymore. And now I'm going to have to switch those items out, where no, I can still look at things, appreciate it, and not need it in my home. I hope this is something you might be able to relate to, but it just kind of takes the pressure off of feeling as if we need to avoid everything just to stay clutter-free. One easy way that I stay clutter-free when it comes to my wardrobe is I go through everything each time there's a new season and I need to switch my clothes from summer clothes to winter clothes. Where we live, we have very little difference in temperatures between each season, except for when we switch from pretty much fall to winter. And then we have our warm clothes for quite a long time until we pretty much switch to summer. So I'm not switching it as often as other places in the world, I'm sure. But I do find at least once or twice a year when I'm switching things around, I like to go through everything, dig a little deeper, and find those clothes that either no longer fit, I was keeping just in case, or maybe there's something that I just find myself not wanting to wear anymore, or it could be worn out. All of these will be decluttered, either donated or given to somebody who could use them. In the worst case scenario, maybe they are thrown away. There does come that time where things are so worn out that they cannot be donated. But in most cases, I just like to donate things instead of trying to sell them, because I find it easier to get it out of my house, have the room that I want, and then if I do need to replace the item, I will have the room to replace it as well. And that's another thing, is I try not to get too hung up on where the item is going to go, because I think that can slow down the decluttering process. So I try not to worry about that too much, because I don't really have that much control over it anyhow. And the last thing I'd want to do is have all this clutter sitting in my garage, just waiting to go somewhere and not fully out of my life. So we are worth it. Our minds are worth it. And the feeling of being stress-free, anxiety-free, and being able to take care of our homes, it's worth it just to get rid of those items. And I find the quicker that I get rid of them, the better. And it just helps me to enjoy my home more when I'm not having to worry too much about these things. I also like to set limits for things like Christmas decorations. I've just decided I want a certain amount of bins. Once I hit that threshold, I make sure that I have to declutter something before I can bring anything else in. I do the same with my wardrobe. I have all my clothes in my closet. If for some reason I got to the point where they could no longer fit in my closet, that is when I would then have a trigger to myself that I need to start decluttering and see what I can get rid of, because I don't want to have clothes stashed in all sorts of different bins and places around my home. I want it to all be limited to that one area. And you can set your limits, whatever you decide is good for you. And that's what's great about staying clutter-free, is you get to decide how much stuff you want to deal with. Also, making sure that everything in our home has a home and a place to live has really helped me to stay clutter-free, because if I'm out and I see something I might want to buy, I do stop and think to myself, where would this item live? Would I put it in my office, in the living room? Where would this piece of decor go, or this piece of clothing? How would I integrate it into my life? And I'm always thinking that, because that thought alone can stop me from buying something that I don't really need to add to our lives. The best way that I stay clutter-free is to think of all the benefits of a clutter-free home. It is so much easier to clean up our home, organize our home, stay tidy on a regular basis. I have way more time in my day because I'm not looking for things that I can't find because we have too much clutter. Overall, there are so many benefits. Maybe you have decluttered and simplified your life like I have, which would leave us with the question of what now? So today I want to share 10 ways that I've added some simple habits into my life to make myself happier. Here is an extremely typical day in our lives. We got up, we are ready for the morning, I have my walking clothes on, and one thing that I've been doing more lately is walking. Whenever possible, I am trying to walk more places. I walk to drop my boys off at school, and then I walk to pick them up. I could easily drive, and that would save me some time, but I want to get outside more. I want to have more fresh air in my life and just enjoy the beauty of being outside and taking in all of the weather that's going on and a fresh breeze. Get Levi outside more, and I find by walking more places, it really boosts my mood and it makes me feel so much happier throughout my day. Another thing I changed was waiting to have breakfast till after I dropped off my older boys at school and I could come home and actually relax as I eat my breakfast, take my time, make something healthy. I usually eat oatmeal and have a cup of coffee, and I can just enjoy that breakfast without feeling rushed and like I have to get everyone ready and out the door. Because I work from home, I do have that luxury, but then you can see I also got dressed for the day. Now, this is something that I don't always do, but I always feel so much better when I do get dressed up for the day and make myself look nice. It just makes me feel a lot happier, and I do feel I am more productive. In the last 4 months, I have read 5 books, and I am so happy about that. So instead of having a little bit of downtime and going on social media or thinking I need to get another chore done, I will just take 10 or 20 minutes, sit down, relax, and do some reading. I've always loved reading, and one of the reasons why I wanted to simplify my life and get rid of all the clutter was so I could have moments to enjoy those things that I really like to do. Now I'm heading in to get some work done and do some research. We are currently redoing the little space right in front of our fireplace, and I'm on Facebook Marketplace looking for 2 chairs. And honestly, I am not seeing anything that is our style, that looks comfortable and is a good price. So I'm kind of wondering if we're gonna have to go and buy it from Mathis Brothers or a store. I'm gonna have to do some more research, but we also went to a local thrift store quite a few times where they get really good furniture, and that's where I found these 2 chairs for a really good price. So I keep going there, but the problem with that is you have to go so often and it's not really close to us. One of the healthy habits that I've been doing for myself lately is to invest time into the creative things that I like to do. I think being a mom, sometimes I put myself on the back burner, and even though I have a job that is pretty creative, editing videos, writing blog posts, I have put aside all of these things I do like to do, like little sewing projects and fun things that I really enjoy, plus make our home cozy and, you know, save us money, and also make art and make our walls look pretty by adding art to our walls. So I'm just investing more time into that. I made this blanket when my first son was born, or actually before he was born. And there's a few spots I had no idea what I was doing. I like to dive into projects, but there's a few areas that have come apart. So I'm just gonna sew those back together, because this is just a blanket that we all really enjoy using, especially for Levi. And I am investing time into myself and making time for myself by doing these creative projects. And that's one thing that this room has really become for me, is an area where I can keep out my sewing machine, and when I'm done sewing, I can put my art out and keep my art out to work on, and just spend some time being creative. It really makes life so much more enjoyable. If I ever made a blanket again, I learned so much from jumping into making this blanket. I sewed it pretty much too close to the edge, and then it frayed and pulled apart. So you learn as you go when you do projects, but this is one of those ones that I really want to save because I really like this blanket. Another thing I've been trying to do with the sewing machine is fixing things instead of just throwing them away or donating them. I've been fixing Emmett's backpack as it rips apart, and just little things that could be sewn up instead of passing them on to the next person to do that. I just like to get as much use out of the item as possible, and that makes me happy to know that I'm not just wasting my money. And now we're off to go get the boys from school. It is crazy how fast the day goes by when I'm working from home and just doing things around the house with Levi. By the time I'm getting the boys, it feels like I can't get any more work done because they'll be home and we'll be doing schoolwork and all the afternoon activities. As adults, we don't laugh as much as we did when we were children, and I am trying to be extremely intentional about laughing more, trying to see the funny side of things. I tend to laugh more than I think the average person does, as you can see in the videos of my mom and I doing the decluttering at her house, which I can link down below, but I'm trying to be very intentional about seeing the funny side of things. So the other day, Levi grabbed a bag of pretzels from Calvin, and a full bag of pretzels just went flying all over the dining room floor. And it was pretty shocking, and there wasn't really anyone's fault. It was just something a baby does. But I had to laugh instead of getting irritated, and I just laughed and laughed and laughed. I scooped it all up and threw it away and said, oh well, and I just try to see the humor in things whenever I can. Another habit that makes me happy is to romanticize life. This is one of the social media trends that I really like, which is trying to find joy, love, and peace within yourself. It's also trying to structure your days and routines so that you're trying to see the beauty in the world and make everything around you as beautiful as possible. Romanticize the moments of your life as it's happening, and really try to enjoy the journey. And that's another thing that I'm trying to do. It is so easy, I think, for all of us to always be looking to the next big thing that's going to be happening, the next big party or the next vacation or the next big thing that we are going to be celebrating in life, getting a new home, whatever it is. For me, that could be a project that we're working on in our house where I am just waiting for that project to be done. But I'm really trying to romanticize life and enjoy the journey. Now it's time to figure dinner out. Another habit that's making me really happy besides being outside is doing yard work. As you just saw, I am trying to work in the yard more because it truly does make me happy to see plants that I planted grow and have some beautiful flowers all of a sudden appear in my backyard out of nowhere, just coming from a seed that I planted in the ground. It adds so much happiness. So if you can find something like that that makes you happy, it just helps so much. And you can see here that I am decorating for Halloween with my boys, just adding some fall elements here. I made this bunting that we just hung up, but that's another thing I'm trying to do is incorporate my boys into the tidying up. We're sweeping here and the decorating, if we do a little decorating here with real pumpkins, but just including them and doing things together as a family really makes me happy, especially when we can all do it together and have a purpose behind what we're doing. Another thing I want to mention about happiness is it is something that we do have to choose to try to see the bright side of things, and we have to be intentional about trying to be happy because honestly, I don't think happiness necessarily just happens naturally. I think we can get caught up in our daily lives, into the grind of things and the drudgery of some tasks, and life is not always easy. Even though I know my videos may look like my life is super easy because I add music and I do a happy voiceover, but we have to choose intentionally to try to make our lives happy. And that's what I'm doing here. Also, I'm intentionally trying to set the mood each evening by putting on low light and trying to kind of mellow our house out at night. And that's just something that I've also been intentional about and has added to the happiness in the evenings here as we turn to fall and winter. And I'm just trying to make it really cozy in our home and be super intentional about that. Another thing I've been doing that's been adding to my personal happiness is realizing when I need help and when I need to take things off of my to-do list. So in the evenings, we have dinner and then I do the dishes. And recently I have been asking my son and my husband if they can help with putting the dishes away or helping do the dishes. And now we are taking turns. We have help now that they're old enough to help. My boys are at the age where they can be involved as well. Tonight, my husband's helping me, but honestly, just asking for help. And if you don't have help, then figuring out maybe the things that you could take off your list so you have more time to enjoy the small things in life and have more enjoyable experiences. But I've found just saying I need a little bit of help, then that has made me so much happier. And now I'm finishing out my evening with my favorite thing to do, which is read right before bed. We have been on a journey to minimize and become clutter-free for the last 5 years. I've reaped so many benefits from that, so I wanted to share those with you today. Number one on my list is we simplified the most used areas in our home. For instance, the kitchen, the hallways, our living room, and I've tried to make those areas the most simplified because that helps us to function better throughout the day. It helps us to get in the kitchen, make breakfast, make lunch quickly, get what we want to get done. And also those are the high traffic areas. So we are coming in and out of our house around our kitchen area. And I just find that the more that area is simplified, the easier it is for me to get things done. Now, we do have more items in our kids' room, and that's fine because we're not using that area all the time. I recently noticed that 75% of the people that watch my videos are not subscribed. So I would love it if you could just hit the subscribe button to join my channel. Next on my list is creating a capsule wardrobe, a minimal wardrobe, whatever you want to call it. I have found that simplifying my wardrobe has helped me so much when it comes to getting ready in the morning and just not having to deal with a lot of clothing management, whatever you want to call it. I just find that I have the things that I love to wear that are comfortable for me, that I know I can throw on quickly and will look okay. Now, I am a stay-at-home, work-at-home mom, so it might be a little different if I had to dress up and go to a job and wear a certain type of uniform or a certain type of dress code. I might have more in my closet. But for me, I've found that around 30-ish items, shirts, pants, or less, 30 or less, has really helped me to streamline getting ready, focusing on what I love to wear and getting rid of everything that doesn't seem to work for me, and trying to make those decisions quickly. So as soon as I know that I don't like a certain thing in my closet, I try to declutter it right away. Third on my list is simplifying my mind. So I know we always tend to focus on the things in our house and the clutter being items, but I've found that simplifying my mind has helped me to get more done and to feel a lot lighter. And what I mean by simplify my mind is just I try to write down anything that I have continually circling around in my head. It's a brain dump that I like to do. I have a notebook and I will just open a page and just write down everything that I'm thinking, everything that I want to get done, and just empty out my mind essentially, so I don't have these reoccurring thoughts. I find once I write it down, it's now out of my mind, and I can always refer to those notes if I want to try to remember what I was thinking about, but I don't have to have these thoughts circling in my head constantly throughout the day, I guess trying to remember what I'm thinking about. So I just do this brain dump, wake up in the morning and get into my office. I'll just write down anything that I have in my head that I'm thinking about, and I have a calendar, and sometimes I'll write it there, sometimes I'll write it in my notebook. It really doesn't matter. I just find writing it down helps me to release it from my mind, and it just helps me to function better throughout my day. Editing your furniture and the way your house is laid out for the stage of life you're in will help simplify your life in so many ways. Getting rid of things that you just don't use very often. We had a set of 3 nesting tables that I finally decluttered because we never use them. They just sat in the corner. They took up space. They took up added visual clutter to our home. Well, I got rid of those. I've never been happier. I didn't even realize that it was kind of bothering me to see those. And once they were gone, I feel our house actually looked better without them. So I feel just editing out the furniture that you don't really need, because furniture is quite bulky and it can get in the way. You don't even realize. One thing that my mom recently did was they decluttered so much that they did not need this really tall set of drawers that they had had forever. It had been my set of drawers when I lived there as a child. They kept it, put it in their room. Long story short, they decluttered enough that they didn't need that anymore, but they kept it because they were used to it, but it was really bulky, and they finally got rid of it. Their room looks so much better without it. It looks so much bigger. There's more space. It looks airy and bright in there in that spot. If my family was watching this, they would laugh at me because I really am not that great at meal planning or just knowing exactly what we're gonna have for dinner each night. But the one thing that has helped me to simplify this a lot is doing repeat meals. And I know that's boring for a lot of people, but we have things on repeat that we do over and over again each week, one of them being spaghetti. So it's so simple to make a sauce and the noodles and then maybe a veggie on the side, and that is a meal on repeat for us. We also have certain things that I repeat during certain seasons when it comes to meals. So chili in the winter, and hamburgers or a grilled type thing in the summer. There's just a lot of things that I know work for us. I know everybody will eat. It makes everyone happy. We enjoy it. So I just repeat it over and over and over again. Something that I've recently done is to simplify and limit my kids' activities. So they go to school, they have their school activities, we have homework, of course, and then we usually have them in one program at a time. And that's just the easiest way I've found to simplify this process, is to only have them in one extracurricular activity. And I don't feel as if they're missing out. I don't feel as if I'm missing out on anything. It gives us more time in the evenings to relax and have family time. It gives us more time on the weekends because we're not at sporting events all weekend long. And of course, there's different times in our lives where we'll have a few more activities, a few less. But recently, I have really brought us down to the bare necessities of doing things. And at this point, we only have them in one extra class, one time a week. For fun. It's an art class, and that's just what's working for us right now. And it's surprising if you feel stressed out or overwhelmed. Take a look at the amount of extracurricular activities and things you're doing, because by taking some of those off your plate, sometimes that can really help to simplify and slow your life down into a more manageable pace. Next on my list is just saying no more often to things. And this doesn't have to be invites to parties. For me, it's saying no to things that maybe we feel as if we have to do. So how do I explain this? Like, I feel sometimes as if I need to be on different social media apps like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and I need to be interacting with friends and family or even people with my business. And I've decided to say no to a lot of that. I do have a Instagram account, but I'm not on there very often. I actually took the app off of my phone, and I only go on there on my computer at a certain time, because I found that that eats up so much of my time going onto that app. Even if I'm just looking at friends and family and fun accounts, it can just eat up an hour before I know it. And it just wasn't making me happy. And by taking that off my plate and just saying, I don't need to go there, I don't need to be on all these different computer apps and social media apps, I found so much more time by not being on all the different social media platforms. And I'm not just saying this because I do this for a business and I make these videos. I'm saying this even as a mom who might get inspiration from these things once in a while. It can just eat up a ton of your time. And I found that it was eating up so much of my time. It wasn't a choice I was making to be on there. It was more of an addiction, like checking my phone and looking and going down a scroll hole, or whatever you want to call it, a rabbit hole that you just wonder, where did my time go? And then next thing you know, you realize an hour's gone by or 30 minutes have gone by. And so I have been saying no to all of that recently and taking it off my phone. And I've found I have so much more time in my day to really do the things that I really want to do. Years ago, we got rid of cable TV and we got Netflix, and over the years, we've had different streaming services, but lately we don't have any streaming services whatsoever. So we have the Roku on our TV, we have YouTube we can watch, and all the other free type things on our TV, but we rarely use them. And that's why we don't have the streaming services anymore, because I have stopped watching TV. I only watch YouTube once in a blue moon with my husband. If he's watching something interesting, he will say, hey, you should watch this. I do research for my videos, but other than that, I don't watch anything. I don't watch the news. I don't watch TV. And I was very surprised when I stopped watching the news, especially. I feel so much more relaxed, stress-free. I still know what's going on in the world because I do subscribe to a newsletter that comes to me through an email that I can sit and read if I have the time that day. I still know what current events are going on because I go online and find those current events that I want to read about, but I'm not at the mercy of what the news station decides to decide at that moment what's popular and what I should be watching. So I would say if you feel stressed out, try to stop watching the news because it will probably help you relax. And what I try to keep in mind is that the news station is a money-making thing. They are trying to get viewers to watch their ads, to watch their videos, and therefore they put on a highlight reel of what they think you should know and what you should watch. And honestly, I don't like that. I want to choose to look up the news stories and read them and see what is really important rather than just whatever they decide at that moment. I just want to mention that this is what I'm doing to simplify my life, and I completely understand that maybe you don't want to do these things. I'm not telling you to do these things. I'm just sharing what is really working for me and what has helped me to simplify my life and gain so much more time and energy and just happiness in general. So another thing that I've done is I've stopped feeling as if I need to follow certain rules that society has put upon us, like wearing makeup every day, or just a lot of different things. Like I've had comments saying that I put my sheet on the wrong way. That kind of stuff just does not matter to me. I don't feel as if I need to follow these rules that someone made up, along the way in life. And I just do what I feel is best for our family. I do what makes me happy, and I don't feel as if there's like a wrong way to fold a sheet. It doesn't matter. It doesn't, like these rules that we've made up, you have to take what will make your life better and then leave what doesn't work for you behind. And I've started to realize that more and more as I get older. Simplifying our financial situation, having a budget, staying within our means, and living frugally has really helped us to simplify everything. It takes the stress off of our shoulders to not have to worry about, are we going to be able to pay for this or that? We don't have any consumer debt, which has helped us to simplify everything. And it's just a simple process of making sure that we are not spending more than what we're making every month. My youngest son just had a major growth spurt, so I took about 3 minutes here, went through his drawers. Now I know what we need for this coming winter and cooler months that are coming, and all of this can be donated. A bonus tip is I stopped sweating the small stuff, and I have a little story for you. My oldest son, for whatever reason, 2 weeks in a row when we had spaghetti, he was walking his half-empty bowl, so there was still half a thing of red spaghetti sauce in this bowl. For whatever reason, he accidentally dropped the bowl. This happened 2 weeks in a row. He accidentally dropped the bowl and it went upside down and shot across my whole rug. Now, in the past, this is something that I would have freaked out about and been like, why did this happen? Oh my gosh, emergency, let's clean it up, whatever. And I would have been really upset that the rug had this big spill across it. Now, was it irritating? Yes, of course, that was irritating, especially the fact that it happened twice. Like, how does that happen 2 times, accidentally dropping the bowl of spaghetti? Regardless, instead of sweating the small stuff and freaking out, I just said, oh, well, it's already happened. There's nothing I can do about this besides clean it up. And so I just said, let's clean it up. He helped me clean it up. We scrubbed up the rug. And now again, in the past, I would have been upset that the rug was now stained. There's just no way to get red spaghetti sauce out of a rug, honestly. And luckily the rug has a lot of pattern in it. It didn't really matter. But now I tell myself when this sort of stuff happens that it's just a rug. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to get freaked out about this. And by doing that in every part of my life, it's just taken the anxiety out of everything. It's taken the stress off of everything. And that's just a personal decision I decided to start making, is just quit stressing the small little things that in the long run really do not matter. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for being here. If you're new, hit the subscribe button and you can click right here to continue watching. Bye.